The ship landed on 3 months ago. Park still remembered the moment he first saw this world through the small window of the transport vessel. Green forests stretched in every direction. Blue rivers cut through valleys like silver ribbons. Mountains touched clouds in the distance. It looked like paradise. But paradise had teeth. Wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the metal wall he was building. The colony needed stronger defenses. Everyone knew why. The creatures that lived in the deep forest were not friendly. They were called, and they had already killed 4 people since the humans arrived. He put down his welding tool and stretched his tired back. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was beautiful, but beauty meant nothing when monsters hunted in the darkness. "You are working too hard again." Turned around. His wife walked toward him with a gentle smile. Her belly was round and full with their first child. 7 months pregnant, and she still refused to rest. That was the woman he loved. Stubborn, brave, too curious for her own good. "Someone has to keep you safe," said. He walked to her and placed his hand softly on her belly. He felt a small kick. Their daughter was strong, just like her mother. Laughed. "The walls are already 3 meters high. What are you afraid of?" "Everything," answered honestly. "They can jump. They can climb. The military team says they are the most dangerous creatures on this planet." Smile faded a little. She looked toward the forest beyond the walls. Her eyes held that look knew well. She was thinking, wondering, questioning. "I'm not so sure about that," she said quietly. Frowned. "What do you mean?" Was the colony's lead. Her job was to study the animals and plants of this new world. She spent her days looking at data, reading reports, and sometimes going outside the walls to collect samples. That last part worried the most. "The attacks," said slowly, "they do not make sense. They are predators, they hunt. That makes perfect sense." Shook her head. "No, think about it. If they wanted to hunt us for food, they would attack more often. They would target the weak. But they do not. The attacks happen in specific areas, always the same places, and they never eat the bodies." Felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He did not like where this conversation was going. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that maybe they are not hunting us," said. "Maybe they are protecting something." Before could respond, a loud siren filled the air. Red lights flashed on the walls. Guards ran to their positions with weapons ready. Someone was shouting orders. "Get inside," told quickly. "Now." He grabbed his rifle and ran toward the eastern wall. Other colonists joined him, their faces pale with fear. Above them, spotlights cut through the growing darkness, searching the tree line. Then saw it. Stood at the edge of the forest. It was massive, 3 meters tall at the shoulder. 6 powerful legs held up a body covered in thick, armored plates. Its head was long and angular, with a mouth full of teeth that could crush bone. 2 large eyes glowed like hot metal in the spotlight. The creature did not move. It just stood there watching. "Hold your fire," the commander ordered through the radio. "It is not approaching." Kept his rifle aimed at the beast. His heart beat fast and loud in his chest. He had seen pictures of the before, but seeing one in person was different. It was terrifying. This was not an animal. This was a nightmare made of muscle and armor. The lifted its head and made a sound. It was deep and long, like thunder rolling across mountains. Then slowly, it turned and walked back into the forest. The darkness swallowed it whole. Everyone let out their breath at the same time. "Why did it not attack?" someone asked. Nobody had an answer. Found in their small living quarters. She was sitting by the window, looking out at the forest. Her hand rested on her belly. "I saw it," she said without turning around. It was watching the colony." "It was hunting," said firmly, "looking for weakness." Finally turned to face him. Her eyes were serious. "Or looking for something else. I need to study them more closely. I need to go outside the walls." "No," the word came out sharp and fast. "Absolutely not. You are pregnant, you cannot take that risk. I will be careful, I will stay close. Close is not safe, nothing is safe out there. Sat down next to her and took her hands in his. I cannot lose you, I cannot lose our daughter, please, promise me you will not go out there. Looked at him for a long moment. He could see the conflict in her eyes, her desire to understand fighting against her love for their family. I promise, she finally said. But knew his wife. He knew that some promises were harder to keep than others, was a scientist. Her whole life was built on asking questions and finding answers. And right now, they were the biggest question on this planet. That night could not sleep. He lay in bed, listening to the sounds of the alien world outside. Strange birds called in the darkness. Wind moved through trees that were not quite like trees. And somewhere out there in the black forest, creatures with glowing eyes were watching. He thought about Earth, about the safe streets and warm cities they had left behind, about the life they could have had. But then he remembered why they came. A new beginning, a better future for their daughter, a chance to build something meaningful. 7 was supposed to be humanity's next great step. Thousands of people had volunteered for this mission. Only 500 were chosen and were among the best: engineers, scientists, dreamers. Now those dreams felt very far away. Beside him slept peacefully. Her breathing was soft and steady. One hand rested on her round belly, protecting their child even in sleep. Made a silent promise to himself. He would keep them safe. No matter what, no matter the cost, they could watch all they wanted. They would never touch his family. He did not know then how wrong he was, not about protecting them, but about everything else. The truth about them was stranger than any human could imagine, and it would change everything they believed about this world. But that truth was still waiting in the forest, hidden in the shadows, watching with eyes like molten copper. 2 weeks passed. They did not attack again. Some colonists began to relax. They said the creatures were afraid of the walls. They said the danger was over. Did not believe them. He had seen those glowing eyes. There was no fear in them, only patience. Continued her research inside the colony. She studied old reports. She watched video recordings of previous. She drew maps showing where every attack had happened, and every day the same conclusion stared back at her. The attacks were not random. They formed a pattern, a circle around a specific area 2 kilometers east of the colony. Something is there, she told one evening, something important to them. Then we should stay away from it, said. We should understand it, replied. If we know what they are protecting, we can avoid conflict. We can share this world with them. Shook his head. He loved his wife deeply, but sometimes her optimism scared him. They are animals, dangerous animals. You cannot reason with them. You do not know that. I know enough. The argument ended like all their arguments ended, in silence. Neither of them was willing to change their mind. Went back to building walls, went back to her research. But one morning, everything changed. Woke up before sunrise, was still sleeping. She looked at his peaceful face and felt a twist of guilt in her chest. She knew what she was about to do was wrong. She knew he would be angry, maybe even heartbroken. But she had to know the truth. She dressed quietly and packed a small bag. Sample containers, a scanner, a radio, a small knife just in case. She did not take a gun. Guns made noise, noise attracted attention. The eastern gate was guarded by 2 young soldiers. They looked tired. The night shift was almost over. Doctor, one of them said with surprise, "Where are you going?" Soil samples, said calmly. The riverbed east of here. I will be back in 2 hours. The soldier looked uncertain. That area is close to territory. I should call for an escort. By the time an escort is ready, I will already be done, smiled warmly. I will stay close, I promise. The soldier hesitated, but was respected in the colony. She was a senior scientist, and she seemed so confident, so sure. Be careful, he finally said, and opened the small door beside the main gate. Stepped outside. The forest was beautiful in the early morning light. Mist hung low between the trees. Strange flowers opened their petals to catch the first rays of sun. Somewhere nearby, a small animal made a sound like singing. Walked quickly but carefully. She followed the map in her mind. The riverbed was 1.5 kilometers away, just a short walk. She would collect her samples and return before even notice she was gone. But as she walked, she did not notice the shadow moving through the trees behind her. Woke up to an empty bed. His hand reached for automatically but found only cold sheets. He sat up immediately. His heart already knew something was wrong. He called. No answer. He checked the bathroom, the kitchen, the small living room, empty, all empty. Then he saw the note on the table. I am sorry. I had to see for myself. I will be safe. I love you. His blood turned to ice. He grabbed his jacket and ran. At the eastern gate, the soldiers confirmed his worst fear. Doctor had left almost an hour ago. She went toward the riverbed, alone. Why did you let her go? Shouted. His voice cracked with fear and anger. She is a senior officer, the soldier said nervously. She said she would be quick. Did not waste more time with words. He ran to the vehicle bay and jumped on it. The engine roared to life. He shot through the gate like a bullet, not caring about protocols or safety. The forest blurred past him. Branches scratched at his arms. He did not slow down. Please be safe, please be safe, please be safe. The words repeated in his mind like a prayer. He reached the riverbed in 8 minutes, the skidded to a stop. He jumped off and looked around wildly. YUNA. His voice echoed through the trees. Birds flew away in panic, but there was no reply. Then he heard it, a low, rumbling sound like thunder, but the sky was clear. Moved toward the sound. He pushed through thick bushes and climbed over fallen logs. His hand found his sidearm, a small pistol. It would not stop her, but it was all he had. He came out of the trees and froze. He found her. Stood in a small clearing. Sunlight fell through the leaves and made her hair shine. She was not moving. She was not running. She was just standing there like a statue. And in front of her stood the largest had ever seen. It was black, pure black, like a piece of the night given form. Its 6 legs were thick as tree trunks. Its armor plates gleamed like polished stone, and its eyes burned like molten copper fixed directly on. The creature's head was level with hers. Steam rose from its nostrils with each breath. 1 step closer and it could bite her in half. Raised his pistol. His hands were shaking. His finger found the trigger. He whispered, "Do not move, I am going to shoot it." But raised her hand, not toward him, toward the palm out, a signal. Wait. They took a step forward. His heart stopped. Another step. The creature was so close now, close enough to touch, close enough to kill. Its breath moved the hair around his face. His finger tightened on the trigger. Every part of him screamed to shoot, to protect her, to save her. But his hand stayed raised. Her eyes stayed calm. And they did something no one expected. It lowered its massive head, slowly, gently, and pressed its snout against its pregnant belly. Could not move, could not think, could not understand. The most dangerous creature on this planet was touching his wife, touching their unborn child, and was not screaming. She was not afraid. She was smiling. Her hand came down slowly and rested on the creature's armored face. Her fingers touched the hard plates above its eyes. They made a sound, low and soft, almost like a cat purring. "It is okay," said quietly. "Lower the gun." "I cannot," he whispered back. His voice was broken with fear. "You must trust me, please." Looked at his wife. He looked at the beast. He looked at the impossible moment happening before his eyes. And slowly, with hands that still shook, he lowered the pistol. The copper eyes turned to him. They studied him for a long moment. Then, incredibly, the creature stepped back. It lowered its front legs and pressed its chest to the ground. Its great head bowed low. The soft underside of its throat faced upward, completely exposed. Had studied enough animal behavior to know what that meant. Submission, trust, respect. The monster was bowing to his pregnant wife. For a long time, nobody moved, stood with his pistol at his side, kept her hand on the creature's armored face. The remainder bowed its massive body low against the ground. The forest was silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the creature rose. It stood at its full height, towering over both humans like a living mountain. Its copper eyes looked at one more time. Then it turned and walked into the forest. In seconds, the black beast disappeared among the trees. Only the heavy marks of its footprints remained as proof it had been there at all. Let out a long breath. Her hand moved to her belly. The baby kicked strongly, as if excited by what had just happened. Found his voice. What was that? I do not know, admitted, but I think I am beginning to understand. She explained as they walked back to the colony. Her theory, her research, everything she had discovered in the past weeks. They were not mindless killers. They were intelligent, perhaps as intelligent as humans, maybe more. They had a society. They had rules, and most importantly, they had something sacred to them. Mothers. On Earth, many animal species protected pregnant females, but for them it went deeper, much deeper. Believed that in culture, a pregnant female was almost holy. Harming one was the greatest crime. Protecting one was the highest honor. When the black saw's pregnant belly, it did not see prey. It saw something sacred. Something to be protected, not destroyed. That is why it bowed, said. It was showing respect, submission to the life inside me. Struggled to accept this, but they killed 4 colonists. How is that respect? Stopped walking, her face became serious. Think about it, where did those attacks happen? He thought back, Sector 7, Sector 8, the Eastern Ridge. Always the same areas, continued. I checked the records. Those colonists were surveying land for expansion. They were walking directly into something they wanted to protect. What? I think it is a nesting ground, a place where mothers give birth and raise their young. Eyes were bright with understanding. We built our colony right next to it, and every time humans walked toward it, they defended it. They were not hunting us. They were protecting their bobbies. Felt the ground shift beneath his understanding of this world. For months, everyone believed there were monsters, animals acting on instinct, killing for sport. But what if they were wrong? What if they were defending their children, just like any parent would? We need to tell the colony, said. They returned through the eastern gate. Guards stared at them with wide eyes. Word had spread that Doctor went outside alone. People were worried. People were angry. The colony commander, a stern woman named Captain Shin, met them immediately. Doctor, she said coldly, you violated safety protocols. You put yourself and your unborn child at risk. What do you have to say? Stood straight, she was not afraid of the captain. I have information that could change everything. They are not our enemies. They are parents protecting their young. Captain Shin's expression did not change. You will present your findings to the council. Until then, you are confined to quarters, both of you. Wanted to argue but touched his arm gently. They followed the guards to their small home. The door closed behind them with a heavy sound. She does not believe you, said. She will, replied, when she sees the evidence. The council meeting happened the next day, presented everything. The maps showing attack locations, the video of the black bowing to her, her theory about the nesting ground. Some council members listened with interest. Others shook their heads. One man, an older engineer named, laughed out loud. You expect us to believe these monsters have feelings, he said. They are animals, dangerous animals. The only solution is to clear them out before they kill more of us. If we attack their nesting ground, they will fight back, warned. And we will lose. Have you seen how big they are? How fast they move? We have 200 armed guards. They have hundreds of warriors. This is not a war we can win. Then what do you suggest? Captain Shin asked. We just wait, let them surround us. We make peace, said simply. We show them we understand. We stay away from their nesting ground. We respect their space and they will respect ours. The room erupted in arguments. Some agreed with, others called her naive. The meeting ended without a decision. That night sat by the window again, sat beside her. They will not listen, she said sadly. They are too afraid. Fear makes people stupid, admitted. I know. I was afraid too. When I saw that creature near you, I wanted to shoot it more than I wanted anything in my life. Looked at him. What stopped you? You took her hand. The look in your eyes, the calm in your voice. You saw something I could not see. I trusted you. Squeezed his hand. That is all I want, for everyone to see what I see. There does not have to be war. We can share this world. The next morning brought news that changed everything. A survey team had gone to Sector 8. They ignored the warnings. They walked straight toward the area believed was the nesting ground. They responded. 3 creatures attacked the team. 2 men were killed. 1 woman escaped with deep wounds. She was found crawling toward the colony, blood covering her body. The colony exploded with rage. People demanded revenge. They wanted the military to burn the forest, kill show them who ruled this planet. Captain Shin called an emergency meeting. This time was not invited. Held as she cried. They will not understand, she sobbed. They will start a war and we will all die. Outside their window the forest stood dark and silent. Somewhere in those shadows, creatures with copper eyes were watching, waiting, preparing. And in the colony, humans loaded their weapons and sharpened their hate. 2 species stood on the edge of destruction, both afraid, both ready to fight, both believing the other was the enemy. Only one person could bridge the gap between them. The days after the attack were dark. Funerals were held for the 2 dead men. Their families cried. Their friends cursed the whole colony burned with anger and grief. Captain Shin announced that military operations would begin in 1 week. Soldiers would enter the forest and destroy any they found. The captain called it a necessary action. Others called it war. Called it suicide. We cannot fight them, she told anyone who would listen. There are too many, they are too strong. If we attack, they will wipe us out. But nobody listened. Fear had turned to hate. Hate was easier than thinking, easier than understanding. Watched his wife grow more desperate each day. She barely slept. She barely ate. The baby inside her grew restless, kicking and moving constantly. Even their unborn daughter seemed to sense the danger. Then, on the 3rd night after the attack, something happened. Woke to a strange sound outside their window, a low rumbling, deep and constant, like distant thunder that never stopped. He looked outside and his heart nearly stopped. The black was there, standing just beyond the colony wall. Its copper eyes reflected the moonlight. It was looking directly at their window. Whispered, "Wake up." She came to the window. When she saw the creature, she did not look afraid. She looked relieved. It came back, she breathed. It came back for me. For you. Was already putting on her shoes. I have to go to it. Are you insane? Grabbed her arm. It is the middle of the night. There are guards everywhere. You cannot just walk out there. Then come with me. Stared at her. The woman he loved was asking him to walk toward a creature that could kill them both with 1 bite. Every logical part of his brain screamed no. But he looked into her eyes. He saw the certainty there, the trust, the hope. You really believe this is right? He asked quietly. With all my heart. Closed his eyes. He thought about their daughter, growing inside. He thought about the future they wanted to build. a future that would never exist if war destroyed everything. "Okay," he said, "let us go." They slipped out through a maintenance hatch that knew from his engineering work. The guards were focused on the main gates, not the small service doors. The night air was cold. Stars filled the sky above them. The black waited in the shadow of a great tree, its eyes tracking their approach. Walked forward without hesitation. Stayed close behind her, ready to grab her and run if anything went wrong. But nothing went wrong. The lowered its head as they approached, that same gesture of respect, that same recognition of pregnancy. Reached out and touched its face again. The creature made a soft sound. Then it did something new. It stepped back and looked toward the forest. It looked back at the forest. "I think it wants us to follow," said. "Into the forest at night," shook his head. "That is too dangerous." But there was already moving. It walked slowly, looking back to make sure they followed. Its great body glowed faintly in the moonlight. Followed, had no choice but to follow her. They walked for almost an hour. The forest was dark and full of strange sounds, but nothing threatened them. Every shadow seemed to pull away as they passed. Every predator fled at this approach. They were being protected. Finally, they reached a wide valley. The moon shone bright here, revealing what lay below. Gasped, felt tears spring to his eyes. The valley was full of, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, adults and young ones. Bobbies no bigger than dogs playing among the legs of their mothers. Families sleeping together in warm piles. Elders watching over the group with patient eyes. It was not a hunting ground. It was not a war camp. It was a nursery. The black led them to a flat rock overlooking the valley. Other noticed them. Heads turned. Copper eyes studied the two humans, but none attacked. None even moved toward them. An old approached slowly. Its armor was gray with age. Scars marked its body from many battles long ago. It walked straight to and looked at her belly for a long moment. Then it made a sound. A long, complex series of rumbles and clicks. Other answered with similar sounds. A conversation was happening. Communication beyond human understanding. The old one looked at with ancient eyes, and somehow, without words, she understood. They were not enemies. They never wanted to be enemies. They only wanted their children to be safe. They only wanted to live in peace. Exactly like humans. "We are the same," whispered. Tears ran down her cheeks. "We are exactly the same." Put his arm around her. He looked at the valley full of alien families, mothers and fathers, children and grandparents, lives being lived, love being shared. How could anyone want to destroy this? They returned to the colony before sunrise. The black walked with them all the way to the wall, then disappeared into the forest. Did not sleep that day. She worked on a new report, a detailed account of everything they had seen. Maps of the valley, descriptions of the family groups, video from the small camera she always carried. The next council meeting would happen in 3 days. She had 3 days to convince people that war was wrong. 3 days to save 2 species from destruction. Helped her, he drew diagrams. He wrote explanations. He practiced arguments for every objection they might face. "Do you think it will work?" he asked on the second night, exhausted from work and worry. Looked at her report, pages and pages of evidence, pictures of baby playing, recordings of their complex communication. "It has to work," she said. "There is no other choice." Outside, the forest was quiet, but somewhere in those trees, a black creature with copper eyes was watching the colony, waiting to see if humans could learn what it already knew. That all life was sacred, that all parents loved their children, that enemies could become friends if only they tried to understand. The future of 2 worlds would be decided in a single meeting. The council meeting began at noon, stood before the leaders of the colony with her report in her hands. Her belly was huge now, 8 months pregnant. Walking was difficult. Breathing was difficult. But she stood straight and spoke with a clear voice. She showed them everything: the video of the nursery valley, the recordings of communication, the evidence that these creatures were not monsters but intelligent beings protecting their families. "They want peace," said. "They always wanted peace. We are the invaders here. We built our homes next to their sacred ground. We walked into their nurseries, and when they defended their children, we called them killers." The room was silent. Then the old engineer spoke. His voice was rough with anger. "My nephew was one of the men who died. You want me to forgive the animals that killed him?" "I want you to understand why he died," replied. "He walked into their most sacred place, where their bobbies sleep, where their mothers give birth. What would you do if aliens walked into a human nursery?" Had no answer. Captain Shin raised her hand for silence. Her face was thoughtful. "Even if what you say is true, how can we trust them? How do we know they will not attack again?" "Because they already trust us," said. "One of them came to me. Night after night it watched over the colony, not to attack but to protect. It led me to the valley. It showed me their children. No species shows weakness to an enemy, only to a friend." The debate continued for hours. Some council members believed, others remained afraid. The vote would happen the next morning. That night the storm came. Nobody expected it. The weather systems on 7 were still poorly understood. The storm appeared from nowhere and hit the colony with terrible force. Wind tore at the walls. Rain fell so heavy that vision dropped to zero. Lightning split the sky again and again. The power grid failed. Emergency lights flickered and died. And in the middle of this chaos, Swatter broke. "The baby is coming," she gasped, clutching her belly. "The baby is coming now." Felt panic seize his chest. The medical center was on the other side of the colony. The roads between buildings were flooded. No vehicle could make the journey in this storm. He tried the radio, nothing but static. He tried his communication device. Dead. The storm had killed all electronics. "I will carry you," he said desperately. "I will run, I will get you there." But the water outside was already knee-deep. The wind knocked people off their feet. No human could cross that distance in time. Screamed as another contraction hit her. The baby was not waiting for the storm to pass. Then they heard it, a sound that cut through the thunder, a deep, powerful bellow that shook the walls of their home. Ran to the window. Through the rain and darkness he saw 2 copper lights approaching, eyes burning like fire. The black had come. It stood outside their door, ignoring the storm as if it were nothing. Its armored body blocked the wind. Its eyes were fixed on the small building where was screaming in pain. Made a decision that would have seemed insane just weeks ago. He opened the door. The lowered its massive body to the ground. Its back was wide and flat like a platform. It looked at with those copper eyes. No words were needed. The meaning was clear. "Get on, I will carry you." "Help me lift her," shouted to his neighbors who had gathered in the storm. Together they carried outside. The rain soaked them instantly. The wind tried to push them down, but they reached the and lifted onto its back. Climbed up behind her. He held her tight, the rose to its full height. Then it ran. 6 legs moved in perfect rhythm. The flooded streets that stopped vehicles were nothing to this creature. It splashed through water that reached halfway up its legs. It leaped over fallen debris. It navigated the darkness with eyes that could see what humans could not. The journey that would have taken 30 minutes by foot took less than 5. The stopped directly in front of the medical center. Doctors and nurses rushed out, shocked by what they saw. A human woman in labor, riding on the back of a. They brought inside, they put her on a bed, machines came to life, doctors began their work. Stayed with her. He held her hand through every contraction. He whispered encouragement through every scream. And outside, through the window, he could see the black standing in the storm, waiting, watching, protecting. 3 hours later, A baby's cry filled the room. Park came into the world healthy and strong. She had her father's eyes and her mother's determination. She was perfect. Held her daughter for the first time. Tears of joy streamed down her face. Kissed his wife, kissed his daughter, and felt a happiness he never knew was possible. When morning came, the storm was gone. The sun rose over a damaged but surviving colony, and in front of the medical center the Black still stood. The council vote happened that afternoon. It was unanimous. No war, no attacks. The territory would be marked and respected. A permanent peace would be established. When was strong enough to walk, she brought baby outside. The Black approached slowly. It lowered its head and looked at the tiny human. Made a soft sound, not crying, almost like laughter. Her small hands reached toward the creature that had saved her life. It touched its great snout to the baby's hand, gentle as a whisper, soft as love. Smiled. I call him, she told. It means wind, because he runs like the wind. Became part of the colony after that. Not inside the walls, but always near. A guardian who never slept. A friend who never failed. Years passed. Grew up knowing as she knew the sun and sky. She rode on his back before she could walk. She spoke to him in sounds that only the two of them understood. And when other humans asked how it was possible, how a monster became a friend, he always told them the same thing. We came to this world thinking we were the strongest, the most important. We were wrong. Humanity's greatest gift is not our technology, it is not our weapons, it is our ability to understand, to connect, to love beyond our own kind. He would look at his daughter playing with the great black beast, and his eyes would fill with happy tears. On 7, an alien taught us what it truly means to be human. And in the forest, in the valley where children played, there was peace. Not because monsters became gentle, not because humans became strong, but because two species chose understanding over fear. And that choice made all the difference. And everything depended on one woman, one baby, and the impossible bond between a human mother and an alien guardian. And she was running out of time. And nothing in the universe made sense anymore. Waiting for the right moment to reveal itself.